Hello, Steve White, Steve White 89. Well, I just watched the third episode of Quantum Leap, the new show. I'm enjoying it. I think it's pretty good. This episode was called Somebody Up There. It was fairly emotional. It was the story of a boxer. Of course, we saw he jumped into a boxer at the end of the last episode. At the end of each episode, you see who he jumps into for the next episode. And it's two brothers, two black guys. One was a trainer. I'm not sure if he was actually a boxer. I can't remember now. But they're about to have their big fight, and he loses the fight, and his brother commits suicide not long after. He's suffering from post-traumatic stress from being in the Vietnam War, and he's falling apart, partly because he has gone to loan sharks to get money to keep the boxing ring that he owns, the gym that he owns. So he's basically, if they don't win the fight, he loses everything. So that's, I guess, why he doesn't survive. So it's difficult because, of course, he has to learn how to box, basically. So he has, is it Addison or Allison? Addison. I'm just going to say Addison. Basically shadow boxing him. He has a photographic memory, which is very convenient, of course. And of course they have the fight, so they know what to do, and they find a weakness, and it's like, okay, you just have to match every point up until this point, every hit, everything, every move, and then take him out at this point, and it'll be fine. So they train based on that, even though he was a left fighter and he's right-handed. They managed to do it, but Addison actually passes out, and I really hope her name is Addison. I'm not saying it wrong the whole time. She passes out because she's been exhausting herself because, of course, she's, stressing over the case, the situation, and also losing her partner and so forth, and blah, blah, blah. So she literally is out for a few hours, and it's become obvious to everyone that she's not sleeping, pushing herself too far. She's like, she gives a little speech about how everything reminds her of him. And there's a great moment where she points out that Wednesday reminds her of him, and the they, them, I can't remember how he identifies, is like, Wednesday reminds you of him? And she's like, yes, we used to watch Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and he'd pretend to hate it, but he loved it. He used to follow them all on Instagram and everything. And I'm like, oh, he's my boy. He watches Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. That's my Real Housewives. I don't watch all of them. I sometimes watch Jersey because it kind of works because it's like a family, so you can kind of believe some of the relationships. But Beverly Hills, it's Beverly Hills. It's, Kyle from Halloween. So that endeared him to me greatly. But yeah, so that he's also having an affair with the, I think, girlfriend of the other fighter, but she is really dismissive of the other guy. I'm like, is that his sister or is that his girlfriend? I couldn't tell. She was on his side, on his team, and she was meeting him in secret. So I'm like, who is she to him? Did they explain? Did I miss it? Was I eating a chocolate biscuit at that point? I don't know. But yeah, the only issue I had with this episode is a small thing. Before I get to the end, how it ended, but there's a moment where he's talking to Addison, and they're walking on the street. He's walking with his brother, and his brother's about 2 feet ahead of him, and he's just talking to her at like normal volume, and he doesn't hear it. I'm like, how does he not hear this? He needs to have these conversations in private. It's not believable that he can just be talking to Addison the whole time and people just don't notice. Now, if this is supposed to be a conceit where he's somehow talking to her, and people aren't hearing, they need to explain that. But as far as I can tell, that was just a flaw that they needed to just work around, which is as simple as having him go into the bathroom to talk to her or something like that. So that's one issue. I noticed that. Because there was another moment where he does speak, and the brother's like, what? And because, he's speaking to Addison. So they need to work on that. But aside from that, I mean, I must admit, I enjoyed seeing him in his boxing gear because, fetishes and so forth. But it was a fairly moving story. He basically, the brother gets arrested because the other fighter called him a baby killer because of the Vietnam thing, and he got out of his car and sort of fought these two guys briefly, and they escaped, but they called the police, he got arrested, and he managed to keep his brother calm enough that he got arrested without taking on the police. And then he got himself arrested so he could be in jail to stop him from getting into a fight and missing the fight, which is why he lost the fight originally, because his brother was in jail because he fought and got kept in jail for another 72 hours. And basically says, I'm not leaving this cell, I'm not fighting this fight unless you get help, because I know you're not going to survive without help. So he agrees that there's a moving emotional scene. It's quite well acted, and he does agree to it. And in the story, he ends up going through his treatment and actually setting up the first victim support group for Vietnam veterans. So it's quite, it was more depth than I was expecting from this show. And there's other things that I was sort of thinking about as well. Like, it didn't really occur to me. I don't know why it didn't sort of hit me in the original series, but every episode is like a period episode. This is an expensive show. They can't just go filming on location without, spending a lot of money on the set dressings and sets and stuff. So there's been some concern, I think, with fans about the ratings. I mean, there are people who hate this show just because they're racist and there's an Asian actor and they consider it woke and everything, blah, blah, blah. An Asian lead. But the ratings have gone down a little bit. The first episode was 3.35 million, which is decent for a show. 2.77 for the second episode, and now it's down to 2.58 for this episode. But that's kind of normal when a show starts. Normally the premiere is huge, and then it drops considerably. This premiere wasn't big, but it's only dropped a little bit. Now, a lot of shows, they drop a little bit and they settle. Some, they just keep declining until they get cancelled. Others grow, or they go upwards and downwards depending on the season and the episodes and so forth. We've had 3 episodes. We don't know where this is going. But I'm enjoying it. I think it's pretty good. The premise, holds up, 20 years later, 30 years later, however long it's been since the original. And I'm not really concerned by the ratings. People are acting like suddenly it dropped off a cliff, which it hasn't, but it did lose a fair percentage. But like I said, normally with the first episode in a series, people view, just checking to see what it's like, and sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. But there's always, I'm surprised anyone tried to make that into a thing. But we'll see if it goes down the same percent each episode, then we'll know it's doomed. Now, how it ends up is, and it's a funny moment, because they get to the point where he gets this in and he punches him and he goes down, and I'm like, and what if he doesn't stay knocked out? And of course he gets up and they're like, oh, we don't have a plan. We didn't plan past this. We assumed we'd be able to knock him out. So fortunately they pull in the right-handed fighter thing, so now he suddenly switches, which throws him off, and he does the brother coaches for that, and they knock him out. They win. They keep the gym and everything, and of course the brother gets the help, and everyone lives happily ever after. And he jumps into the body of a very attractive young lady in an 80s bar. I think around 1982. It looked like the footage of the wedding, but it didn't actually show Diana, so I'm not sure. And it's funny, at first I thought, oh, he's gay. He's in a gay bar. Oh, are they going to do Jeffrey Dahmer or someone? Is it going to be, what's this going to be? And then, because this guy's hitting on him, and I realised, oh no, he's a girl. And then they show a reflection, he's a girl, and he's like, what? And I'm like, what, you didn't think that you'd jump into a girl? You thought you'd only jump into boys? Because there's issues with him jumping. They're expecting him not to be able to jump past his lifetime. They're expecting him to jump back, and they find that he's got some sort of trajectory. And they tried to explain, and they compared it to the space trajectory of the Voyager probes, and how they use the sun to propel themselves further than they could. And that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I'm not sure if there was real science there. I'm not going to think about that, because I don't want that to fall apart. And you just know the critics are going to pull that apart in the reviews, and that the people hate the show. So I'll let them analyse that. But yeah, apparently he has set up some sort of plot, and they don't know where it's going. They don't know how many leaps, and there is no control. They can't do anything. So Addison had to tell him, you're going to be doing this for a while. We don't know how long it's going to take for you to get back. And the other thing that happened was the daughter of Al, I think his name was Al from the first one, Dean Stockwell's character, she got hold of some of his equipment. He had his original hand link for Ziggy, and I don't know if she's just able to communicate with Ziggy or get information from Ziggy, or if she jumped, because at the end they show her hooking that up to some modern day technology and then walking into the middle of a room, and then it whites out, and I'm like, did she just jump, or what was that? I have no idea. And I kind of enjoy that I have no idea what's happening with this show, because unlike some shows like Star Trek where I know everything and I can see when things are wrong, I'm just enjoying this, going with the flow, seeing what happens, and I am enjoying it. So I'm looking forward to the next episode, and I'll be watching it and reviewing it. So feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, and check that out.